thing I have to do is I have to apologize. I don't have my usual slick and cutting-edge setup here. You know, the film crew is all down in their little basket, you know, below the seat, because I've been using my vehicle as a heating station / charging station, because I have been without power for the last 24 plus hours. So, you know, when you're trapped alone in a dark, freezing apartment, left alone with nothing but your thoughts, which is never a good thing for me. You know, you need an escape, and luckily the roads are clear enough. The weather has finally stopped snowing and icing. We just have the remnants of it, kind of. I decided to do what I usually do, an escape to the relative comfort of a powered, heated movie theater, and try to escape my woes for a couple hours. And on the one hand, it worked. On the one hand, it felt good to get out of my little dungeon and, you know, metaphorically stretch my legs, get somewhere warm. You know, just that did feel good. On the other hand, unfortunately, the only movie out that I hadn't seen is Moonfall, which I probably would have seen anyway, but yeah, you know, I am an unapologetic fan of Independence Day. I do not apologize. I'm going to get this back to something. I don't apologize for the fact I love Independence Day. I think it's a great movie. I don't just think it's a good movie. I think it is a legitimately great movie. It is a movie of its time. Few films embodied the 90s as much as Independence Day and all of its grandeur. I love Independence Day. But seldom have I seen a director fall from grace so fucking hard as Roland Emmerich, who hit it in, you know, hit it out of the park his first time, and then every subsequent movie has just trended slower and lower and lower and lower, much like the moon of this story. Just the orbit just keeps descending and the star just keeps on fading, to the point where his movies are met almost with the same, at least for me, the same kind of, oh, fuck, really? We're doing this again, as an M. Night Shyamalan film. The only difference is Roland Emmerich doesn't ever seem to be under the delusion that he's making anything else. He does slip messages into his movies. He does have high moral standards, and he plays those into his movies. The Day After Tomorrow, of course, about environmentalism. Independence Day, about, you know, globalism and smashing down walls and things of that nature. So it's not to say that he doesn't have lofty messages in his films. It's to say that he doesn't seem to be under the impression that he's some kind of brilliant auteur. He's a better than average filmmaker, but the films that he has turned out have just, you know, and this one, God almighty, this is a terrible movie. And I knew that going in. This is not a surprise. It's not a surprise to me that it's terrible. What's a surprise to me is that it's not even enjoyably terrible. This is not a so bad it's good hurricane heist, you know, or even to a lesser extent Independence Day. Because Independence Day, part of what gives it its charm is its, you know, ball to the wall, unapologetically cartoonish, you know, charm. Part of what you love about Independence Day is, you know, some of it is stupid, and you just, you know, you just kind of embrace the stupidity. And this doesn't even have that. There is nothing of joy or interest or fun or anything about this movie that made me go, oh, okay, you know, well, I can see that this could be enjoyable. It's all fucking awful. God almighty. Okay, so real quick, let's run down the insipid plot. And again, I don't blame this movie for the stupidity of the plot. I blame the movie for the lack of fun it has with the stupidity of the plot. So as you can tell from most of the trailers and posters, the moon is falling out of orbit, and it is causing the traditional Roman Emmerich destruction of the Earth, which let's just jump on that point right away. The one thing you're supposed to rely on a Roman Emmerich film for is that amazing, destructive, catharsis, that thing that Independence Day captured so brilliantly back in the day. Problem is, that kind of thing is not as cathartic as it once was. Seeing all of our structures and everything destroyed is no longer as fun as it used to be. Not to mention the fact that when Independence Day did it on such a large scale, it was one of the first times it had been done to that large scale in a very, very long time. Now, fucking the world gets fucked up every summer when a Marvel movie comes out. Kong and Godzilla destroyed Hong Kong. Seeing cities get destroyed is not as fun as it once was for both real world reasons and the practical reason of been there, done that. What else you got for me? So the one thing that you could presumably go to this movie to hypothetically enjoy is not there. And so anyway, the moon is falling out of its orbit, which a conspiracy theorist played by John Bradley of Game of Thrones fame, Samuel Tarly, my favorite character from Game of Thrones, by the way, has been predicting for years, but of course nobody believes him because they think he's a crackpot. So he goes and finds a disgraced alien played by Patrick Wilson of really nothing fame. I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff, but I wouldn't say he has fame for anything. He was good as Night Owl in that Watchmen movie, but past that, yeah, to go to Halle Berry, who is Patrick Wilson's former partner in astronauting, and she's now the head of NASA through shenanigans, to concoct some brilliant plan to shoot into space and save the moon, because as it turns out, brace yourselves, the moon is actually a Death Star, but not a Death Star. It's a Life Star, basically. It is a big space station that an alien artificial intelligence has latched onto and is going to destroy because of convoluted sci-fi bullshit. Again, the thing I have to point out is it does not bother me that this is an absolutely ridiculous, you've got to be fucking kidding me plot development. None of that bothers me, because you can still make a fun movie out of something like this if you commit completely to it. But this movie fucking sucks. This movie, it makes these revelations and these discoveries with all of the thrill and excitement of, oh, okay. It also doesn't help that all of the alien technology inside the moon bears a striking and unsettling resemblance to some of the technology that humans had developed in Independence Day Resurgence by harvesting alien technology. I would not be surprised if it turned out this was supposed to be some kind of pseudo script for another Independence Day sequel that never materialized because the second one was such bullshit. That would not surprise me to find that out. Yeah, oh my god, this movie is so fucking bad. And again, you could save something like this with a few certain things. For instance, one of the things that saves Independence Day is not just that it has something to say. This movie has nothing to say, really. other than we shouldn't trust AI or we shouldn't trust machines to run our lives, which keep making that point, Hollywood. I'm sure everybody's listening. Also, keep making that point in movies that are, primarily done with computer-generated imagery. I'm sure everybody's going to just ditch the computers and stop making technological advances the more we keep making these movies, because, of course they will. So anywho, one of the things that saved Independence Day, aside from commitment to the bit and having something to say, were the performances, and the incredibly energetic performances by its really, really well-structured cast. I don't think Independence Day gets the credit it deserves for the cast that it put together. I know that after that, Will Smith went from, maybe a B-list sitcom star to a Hollywood A-lister almost overnight, but the rest of the film was populated by a lot of reliable B-level Hollywood talent. Jeff Goldblum, Bill Pullman, oh my God, the name of Jeff Goldblum's father in that movie just ran right out of my head. I'm so sorry. But reliable hands who could be called upon to play just anything and really, really, pull out all the stops. You watch the Independence Day and you see that those people came to play, and they really commit to it. Not here. Not in this one. In this one, our main actors are, bottom of the barrel. Let me take a second before I start ranting about this. Let me say I'm gonna take John Bradley, Samuel Tarly, and I'm moving him out of this conversation. I'm putting him right up here. This does not affect John Bradley. John Bradley is the only person in this movie who is even remotely giving a shit. Even remotely. Okay? So all the stuff I'm about to say about the acting is not on John Bradley. John Bradley brings his charm, he brings his energy, he brings all of the great things that he brought to Samuel Tarly into this film. So, making him the only likable character. He's like a likable Ricky Gervais, is how I describe John Bradley's character in this movie. You could easily see Ricky Gervais playing this part, but the character had to be likable. So, that kind of takes him out of the equation. So everything I'm going to say about the cast, exclude John Bradley from that. All right? So that's my asterisk. But this cast is made up, first of all, it's made up of not even B-listers. These are C and D-listers. And yes, I include Halle Berry in that. I know that back in the 90s and the early 2000s, we suddenly thought Halle Berry was God's gift to everything. But I never thought she was a very good actor or a very nice person, to be completely honest about it. But that's beside the point. But the late 90s, early 2000s, everyone was like, oh, Halle Berry. And nope, I don't believe it. I have never believed it. I don't believe it now. And she's awful. Awful in this. Her and Patrick Wilson. And I don't know if it's a lack of talent. I don't know if it's because of the putrid script they're working with, or if it's just a simple case of two actors just completely sleepwalking through every scene that they're in, or a combination of all three. Both these folks just saw a paycheck at the end of the rainbow and just said, all right, I'll take that. I don't know, but whatever the case is, having these two on screen is literally like watching paint dry. I would rather watch paint dry. And John Bradley does his best to salvage the scenes that he's in with the other two, And he does his best, but he can't make it because, you know, you can only do so much. You can only ask one actor to do so much. I mean, and that goes to the rest of the cast. Again, made up of C and D listers. The only exception to that is Michael Pena, who, how do you fucking make Michael Pena uncharismatic and uninteresting? How do you fucking do that? Well, this movie found a way. It found the magic code, and it fucking wrote it. Like, somehow it made Michael Pena boring. Yeah. Oh, and let's not forget that, you know, because going along with the Roland Emmerich stock character syndrome, which, again, was one of the things that worked about Independence Day, was using stock characters, but turning them on their heads and casting them in a different way, and presenting them in a different way than they ever had before. Roland Emmerich has completely stopped doing that ever since. Now he just relies on stock characters. Yeah, oh, and they've got... So while our heroes are up in space trying to save the hollow moon, we keep cutting back to the dumb shit trio of Patrick Wilson's son, Halle Berry's son, and her exchange student who lives with her for some reason that's never really covered, or at least maybe it was and I just didn't give a shit, racing to try to get to Colorado to the base where everyone's hiding from the moon.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
It is as uninteresting and uninvolving as it sounds, and especially when you got a bunch of actors who are just so not good. Maybe I'm being too hard on the actors. I'm really railing on the acting in this because the acting is just so fucking bad. But maybe I'm being too hard because it's not like they had a script to work with. Everyone always jumps on Hayden Christensen and Jake Lloyd in the Star Wars prequels, but fucking Samuel L. Jackson and Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman were shit in those movies too because they didn't have a script to work with. So don't just jump on this guy, you know. So maybe I'm being too mean to the actors when the script is really to blame. But again, John Bradley managed to find some charisma in there. I don't know what these people's problems is. This is, oh man, what a fucking. And if, John Bradley being in there kind of reminds me of another thing. They go inside the fucking moon, when of course it's being controlled by this like gyroscope circling around a dwarf star, and it looks like the sun at the opening credits of Game of Thrones. That's exactly what it fucking looks like. And all I can think is... I also have to say this, and again, now I've taken John Bradley and I put him over here, but I have to bring his character down back in here a little bit. Not his performance, his character. Once again, one of our heroes is a conspiracy theorist whose crackpot bullshit idea turns out to be right, and they're vindicated. And I'm sorry, much like the case Rebecca and I made about Godzilla vs. Kong, I don't believe that at this point in history, it is a smart idea to lend credence to the idea that these crackpot podcasters with their... the government is made up of lizard men, fake news, stop the steal bullshit are in any way credible. I think it's very socially irresponsible. Just putting that out there. But again, that would mean Roland Emmerich would have to come up with some new character types, and that would require some effort. This movie is terrible. This movie is terrible. The only reason I am not gonna flunk it. I'm gonna give the final grade here in a second. Matter of fact, let's just do that now. Final grade for this movie. This movie is a D-. This movie is a D-. I forget if this is actually a sign for it yet. I don't think it is. I think it's a sign for an F. So I think I'm doing it wrong. D-. There we are. Sorry. But like I said, my brain's been frozen. D- on this one. And the only reason it's not getting an F, the only reason I'm not failing it like the complete waste of time that it is that it had one goal, was to get me out of the apartment, which right now is like living inside the physical embodiment of depression, and get me into a warm place and entertain me for a couple of hours. And you know, for the most part, it did that. Maybe not to the extent I wish it would have. I was hoping it'd be a little bit of so bad it's good, but instead it's just so bad it's bad. So that's it. I could rant on and on about this movie, but really at some point we're just going in circles. It's dull, it's boring, it's uninteresting, the characters are shit, the acting is shit, the point of it is non-existent. It is the first major piece of crap movie that I have seen this year, and if it does not, 12 or 11 months from now, when I'm compiling the worst of the year list, if it's not on that list, it means that we have really, really hit an iceberg this year, folks. Oh, what a fucking piece of garbage this film is. All right, so, but I will also, maybe I should bump it up another point by saying that, the ranting is cathartic. I told Rebecca when I was leaving the theaters, like, oh, this movie is awful. She's like, well, then you're going to enjoy it, because there's nothing, I forget what the terminology she uses, like, you love movies you hate. And she is rather right, as she is about most things. So there it is. So it did offer me a catharsis. You know what? I will. I'm going to be nice about this. Let's do it. Let's bump this up to a solid D. It gets a D now. Okay, I've changed grades midstream. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, so there we go. It's a D now. So there you have it. And I'm going to stop now before I somehow argue this up into an A. Hopefully this episode will be on the air soon, depending on, if my power ever comes back on. If not, who knows? So, thank you all for joining me. I hope everyone has stayed safe and warm. And until next time, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.